Welcome, guys, to the Journeymen podcast. I'm Brant Evans with Journeymen Asheville, and I'm joined by my co-host Jordan Bowman from Journeymen Triangle.
Hey guys.
Today we have a special guest, Jason Clamares, who works with Blue Ridge Therapeutic Wilderness, and he is joining us from Asheville, North Carolina.
What's up, everybody?
How you doing, Jason?
Pretty good, man. Thanks for having me on.
Yep. And Jordan, how are you doing, man?
Doing all right. I feel like we're 100 days into this pandemic, and my beard's getting pretty long and gnarly, and
Nice.
I'm feeling all right.
Cool. Yeah, I'm checking in with gratitude to be able to connect with you guys, and we tried to have this conversation once before, and this is round two, so I'm happy that we can all be in one place, even if it's virtual.
Yeah.
So Jason, I know I'm trying to be conscious of you balancing multiple roles because I know you're really into men's work and masculine development, and I also know you're a field director at a wilderness therapy company, and not necessarily joining us on behalf of the company, but I guess I was hoping to start off to just get a sense for what your experience has been like holding a container for adolescents during this COVID time, because you guys have been up and running full student load this whole time through the pandemic, correct?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been a challenge, to say the least. Just when I thought I was in a stride with my managerial development, this threw a wrench in that idea and really showed me the necessity to be creative and to pick up new ways to help everyone function and stay in integrity with the quality of work that we expect in our program. Yeah, it's been a challenge, but it does connect to a deeper value of being excited by a challenge. I do enjoy being the person who has to manage that, and yeah.
Yeah, right on.
Yeah.
How do you feel that Rites of Passage work shows up out there in the woods?
I mean, it's a broad question. I think, oftentimes I'll make this statement that I do believe if you, maybe I'll provide some background information first. So our program largely deals with troubled kids. So a lot of them are experiencing unhealthy coping mechanisms to deal with their basic emotions, whether it's drug abuse or, any kind of substance abuse whatsoever. But I'd say the majority don't have wilderness experience. They don't know what it's like to spend an extended period of time in the forest. There are a few, but in my experience, when I talk to them about that, it's pretty limited. And so oftentimes I say that just being in the wilderness for an extended period of time, maybe between 4 days to a week alone, right there, I think some really incredible change happens. We have the added benefit of some really powerful therapists, some really intelligent, bright people who get the work and can work with what's happening naturally in the forest. But to answer your question, Brant, that's where I think the rite of passage begins, is being uprooted from a place that's so comfortable. And, they have this vision and idea of, this is who I am. This is what I need. And it's so solidified. And when they get thrown in the woods, all that stuff doesn't really serve them anymore. Mm-hmm. It's a process of maybe I'm not the person I thought I was. And the wilderness itself is this journey into discovering new ways, not just for survival, but this deep emotional survival. Hey, that drug abuse was not getting me the desired result. Yeah, to answer your question. Or I hope that answers it.
No, totally. I guess I probably should have asked this first, but I'm imagining that a lot of our viewers actually don't know really what wilderness therapy is. Is there maybe a quick, just brief version of what that experience looks like from the kids' perspective you could tell us?
Yeah, for sure. So it is a whole family program where some parents or guardians will come to us and they have a disruption in their family unit. And their initial engagement with our program is, my kid is out of control in some respect. There's something happening that I just can't control. It's out of my hands. Please help. it's kind of like the generalized plea for help, you know, and then so the kid will enter our program, in which they'll spend roughly about 90 days in the forest and get paired with a therapist who has a general interest in what the student is working with, you know, whether it is substance abuse or trauma. And then meanwhile, while their student is in the forest, the parents are on the other side and they're receiving therapy as well from our family program. The concept of wilderness therapy itself, though, that is the industry, is that, you know, we're not having a structured sort of, you know, sitting on the couch for an hour in a therapist's room once a week. This is an immersive experience where the therapy doesn't end really until they leave the program. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Jordan and I were talking a little bit about kind of our plans for Rite of Passage work that we're going to be hosting in the fall, and the idea of emphasizing the solo element came up a little bit. Well, I guess Jordan, first of all, man, you said that you were feeling called to like have that experience yourself. Do you want to? I guess I'd just love to hear you maybe re-explain why that's calling to you.
Yeah, I think I mean, I'm excited just Jason hearing you talk about this experience for the boys, right? It's like for the kids, 90 days in the woods, and I was just counting back. We've been in lockdown for over 100 days for this pandemic, and there's this connection, this parallel for me, and I'm realizing, you know, I've been spending a lot more time alone, and I'm an extremely extroverted person. Like I'm a social butterfly. Like I'm out there.
Same.
I know everybody, and in this time, I've been kind of forced to go inside, and it's been really nice. But I've realized in some ways I'm not as like comfortable with being completely alone or being completely like just out there, and I've been doing my own little solo like in my house, but I'd love to do the same thing like out in the woods, like incorporate some fasting, maybe incorporate some prayer, incorporate intentionality where other people are kind of holding that space with me. And it sounds like just like a magical experience. Like I feel like it's just something I need to do. And yeah, that was the calling. There's been a calling to do like a solo experience probably for the past year. And it's only just been heightened because of the pandemic.
Yeah, I relate to that, man. I've been feeling the call as well. They do solos in the wood. Do they still do the same type of solo experience?
Yeah, it's the same.
So that's an interesting proposition, right? Like taking 10 kids that don't want to be there and have a history of acting up, and then putting them in these spots where it's like a little bit more difficult to supervise them. There's a lot more freedom, and I mean, just realistically, a lot more can go wrong, right?
Yeah. As you were talking about it, I was thinking, you know, in my description of wilderness therapy, I mentioned how the students are uprooted from a place where they're really comfortable or just not able to look at themselves. And it just made me think of how that mentality it doesn't just go away, because when a solo happens, they're reestablishing that same, they're like, oh, now I'm in another place where I don't have I can't be a funny man in the group anymore to like not deal with my emotions. Like I don't have that to my advantage anymore. Or I just don't have the sense of being with somebody to distract me. So it continues and it gets even more real, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And you see a lot of shit come up for these guys when they're out there.
Yeah.
Yeah,
probably much more than when they're in the group.
Mm-hmm. So, obviously I have the wilderness therapy background as well. And also when I've gone and done solos, the ability for my mind to come up with excuses and reasons to like cut the experience short or, distract myself and just rationalize away escaping the experience. That's always been something that just has blown my mind, both with like long meditation stints and also wilderness solos. And with the boys and the girls out there, I think maybe you can speak to this, but I've seen that behavior manifest as like acting out in certain ways or breaking rules to get pulled off
Yeah.
of solos and that
Yeah.
kind of thing. You've seen that,
Yeah.
I'm assuming.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Um, yeah. And I think that it would be a failure to not recognize the breaking of a boundary as like something that you could process. Uh, it's,
Mm,
it is valuable. It's like, okay, this is where you're at. There's an
right.
opportunity in front of you to self-explore, and you're afraid of it or not able to show up for it, and you had to escape it somehow, and you're either consciously or unconsciously, um, what do you call it, sabotaged this
Mm.
experience for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing stuff what comes up in those conditions. I not even just with solos, but when I go out to the wilderness and when I was doing the woods work, I would notice myself the emotions that I would feel would just be so much stronger than when I have like a phone to distract myself or
Yeah.
can jump onto Netflix. But I would notice myself missing certain people way more than I would normally feel that. I would notice, I mean, it sounds strange, but just a much deeper appreciation for certain relationships out in the woods.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's powerful stuff. Well, I didn't want to, I guess, go too far just into the weeds with the solo stuff. I know that that's Jordan. You and I have been talking about that, so it's a special topic of interest. And Jason's got quite a bit of experience facilitating them. Um, just a stock question and one that I think is really relevant is just what did mentorship look like for you as an adolescent and young adult? What kind of opportunities did you get with mentors?
Hmm. Uh, Pretty much none, I would say. I think um, my upbringing, my adolescence is pretty synonymous with the adolescent boys that I see in the program, where there's this inaccessible older male figure that is clearly like part of who they are. This like clearly they haven't been around a lot of healthy young or healthy older men,
Mm,
and I think that for the most of my experience in high school and through those really tumultuous years of growing up, I didn't have that. I didn't have like a man or a figure of a man or the idea of a man that I would hold in high regards or value or say like that's who I want to be. Um, it wasn't until really I started doing this work that concept and idea was ever really brought forward to me, that like our society is pained right now with that. It's lacking this relationship.
what was
Yeah.
how old were you?
Uh, when I started or
Yeah, when you
when I
started the
realized,
wilderness therapy work.
26, I think,
26. Mm-hmm.
or 27. Yeah, around in there. Yeah. Um, it's kind of it's a weird feeling to realize you've had a hole in your life for X amount of time you didn't even know. It's that being said, like I think that's when I start to feel the importance of mentorship. It maybe wasn't as traditional as like um, older times, but I'm surrounded by people who are invested in self exploration and like doing personal work and mental health, and they were all mentors for me when I entered this environment. Just learning how to really strip away a lot of my ego, for lack of a better word, so that I
Mm.
could look at myself in situations more objectively.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
One, Jordan, did you have something you want to say? I saw you unmute for a second there.
Yeah. I was just you kind of answered it. I guess I was curious what the impact of not having that figure, or even those you said not having a male role model, but even not even having like an idea of who that
Mm.
could be. I was
Hmm.
curious, how else that impacted you.
I would say the first word that like comes to my mouth is understanding what accountability actually means. I think being accountable for myself and for my life, really, before this idea of a mentor took hold of me, I was just kind of coasting, and not being accountable for the man I wanted to be. Um, yeah, and shattering some stereotypes about vulnerability as a man, what I can expect to be, how I don't fall victim to being like seeing Arnold Schwarzenegger as my hero and my only idea of what a man is, but like being like, oh man, like it's actually much more fulfilling to access an emotional self than suppress it and try to be tough. Yeah.
Mm. You mentioned accountability. How do you define that? I mean, what does accountability mean to you?
Oh man. Yeah. Um, I think it's, you know, hmm, so often it can be enticing to cast blame.
Mm.
Uh, and before that happens, before like saying, no, this isn't the case, this is this is the truth. Like it, when I feel that sensation of defensiveness coming up, it might be an indicator that I haven't checked in with like, what part of this am I accountable? Whatever situation I'm entering. I said I was feeling rather stuck in my like mid 20s, and something that like I would tell myself is, I'm just saving money to go back up to school, and obviously that never happened. It was something I was saying, and a more accountable description of my reality was that I'm not establishing healthy relationship with my finances. I wasn't taking accountability for that, or taking accountability for like preparing myself for a future. Instead, I just made that like, you know, deflective argument around it.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I've got the ignore stuff, the ignore strategies.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh yeah, man.
And have had it,
Yeah.
working on it every day, right? And
Uh-huh.
this work is an accountability process for me too, because I'm constantly confronted with like looking at my adolescent self, and in some ways careful not to project onto the boys that we're working with, but saying like, "Oh yeah, I remember when I did that," and it actually is still there, and I gotta I gotta watch out. How might I be avoiding responsibility,
Mm.
or
It's
not
so
really
difficult. Yeah.
have those rose-colored glasses on,
Yeah.
looking at the world. Um, so yeah, thanks for sharing that.
I think like through the process of this industry and the job is something that comes up as you climb the ranks is I'm accountable to the kids, and that's an incredible concept. And not just them, but my coworkers. There's a level of kind of these people are relying on me, um, honestly, to keep them safe, and that's a massive level of accountability. And it's 10 times as much in the role I am in now. I'm responsible and accountable for a lot more, and just making it clear to me like this is what I'm agreeing to as I move up in my development, like as I increase in whatever kind of position, it does mean that like, hey, you have more that you need to be accountable for. um, and I welcome that experience like pretty often.
There's a part of the groups that we run, Jason, where we open things up. We do like a check-in, and then we have a round of accountability where you can say whether you're like in or out of integrity with like whatever goals you've had for the past week. And I noticed myself forgetting to, as the facilitator of the group, forgetting to do that
Mm.
little piece for multiple weeks in a row. I don't know like fully what it's about, but it's a really interesting thing to like completely forget or overlook. It's not like I didn't know about it. It's just, like what does that say?
What's going on there, Brant?
Right. Yeah, exactly. Is there some kind
Is
of
that a
avoidance
pattern?
happening? Yeah. Right. So it's interesting.
Mm.
Jason, kind of expanding on that piece around not having a ton of mentorship earlier on, and then I know you pretty well. I think it's fair to say that you were able to really plug into an environment that gave you a lot of mentorship and introspection when you were in your 20s with the wilderness therapy stuff. But I guess I'm curious about how that lack of mentorship experience earlier on shapes maybe how you show up as a mentor for people now. Because I know there are some guys who either you work with, and definitely some of the kids in the woods have really looked up to you in the past as a mentor. So I was just wondering, how does that shape it for you?
Yeah. Well, I was just thinking about something there. I was like, I think when the mind and the body are willing to um, like develop some change or in need of a mentor, that what happens unconsciously. Like I think that perhaps the body or the self can provide the experience if someone's willing. Like if in the face of not having a mentor, um, and just for some like groundwork on your question, Brant, is I think that the difficulty of being outside in the woods and this level of accountability forced me to look at myself and say like, hey, there's parts of yourself that, much like the kids are experiencing, there's parts of yourself that aren't going to work here if it means that you want to do a good job, if you want to keep people from like hurting themselves, and potentially like entering a massive risk.
Mm.
You need to be accountable. You need to step up for yourself. So it's kind of like this um, bodiless, the way I kind of picture it, it's like this ethereal mentor that I just connected to. And in that process, to answer your question, Brant, is I have recognized the necessity uh, to observe how I'm showing up for the behalf of somebody else. That when it's appropriate to joke or to make a lighthearted comment or to the things I choose to display, like am I displaying laziness? Am I displaying hard work ethic? And um, I need to role model. It really comes down to role modeling for myself in order to expect the same from others. I can't ask them to do something I'm not doing, and that's really like been a huge thing for me, is making sure that it's hard, and I'm probably not in alignment with it all the time, but it is something I think about.
Yeah.
Like, is this what I would want someone to be doing?
Right.
Yeah.
It's always a good question, right?
Yeah.
I know.
I got a quick oh, you want to go?
Well, I know, Jason, that you're a little bit short on time. Is it?
Yeah, I got
we
like
ask-
2 more minutes.
Okay, cool. Let's
Yeah.
Jordan, if we can field your question and then do a quick round of checkouts. Does that work for you, Jason?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sweet. Yeah, I was curious if on, the wilderness therapy, like on the sessions, do you guys do you give, the kids or the people in the program like tasks, and are they accountable and responsible for different
Oh,
things? I was
yeah.
assuming they were.
Not to the level of like they will put other people's safety at risk. Not like my role, but varying levels to that. Yeah.
Mhm.
I think as the student moves through the program, it's inherent to the time that they've been there. It's a bit of an expectation that they will be more accountable towards the task of like setting up camp or just completing the daily chores that must get done. It's like, hey man, like you need to lead these people because they need to see a leader.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love that because um just what you were sharing about you being accountable, you have very little margin to mess up. Like you can't, like,
Tell me
right?
about it.
Like
Yeah.
you not being accountable means someone's going without food or water, or people are
Yeah.
getting wet and sick. Um, and so for the boys to be able to see you model that, and
Yeah.
then them being responsible for things where it's like, well, like if there's a little, if the site's not cleaned up or the fire's not built, like
Yeah.
not going
Yeah.
to be a
Yeah.
huge inconvenience, but like to be able to hold that, like I'm accountable for this, and it's
Yeah.
important in how I approach it, and it's not, there's more margin for error,
Yeah.
but we can kind of, yeah, I see that being a really important lesson for them on the.
There's something I was talking about the other day. Is like the type of backpacking that we do is not like a traditional backpacking. Like the packs that staff carry are extremely heavy, and if I'm honest, like I was never a fan of it, but I knew how to do it. And so your pack would be weighed down with an excessive amount of food and all this gear, medical supplies, all this stuff, and it just I don't know, maybe 70 pounds. It's just absurd. Um, and knowing that, like I knew that I could never express I couldn't complain to the kids about how heavy my pack was and ask them to do a really difficult hike. Like I need to show them that my pack is not heavy and crush this hike. and just like, yeah, it's like, this is the role I'm in. I'm in a mentor, and they need, like, being witness to someone who is like going through something difficult. Like, I need to be strong for myself and for them. Yeah.
Dude, that is a beautiful sentiment that I think we need to see more of in our society.
Yeah.
I'd love to like kind of end it on that one if y'all are good
Yeah.
with that.
Cool. That works.
I'm checking out with just gratitude for both of you guys, and yeah, feelings of connection for being able to have this conversation. I'm out with that.
Awesome, thank you. Yeah, I'm checking out with just feeling good, feeling excited. Got some more ideas on some future journeyman solo experiences we're thinking about, and yeah, connected, and holding this question of vulnerability and like responsibility and leadership and being accountable. I'm simmering in all that, so I'm feeling good.
Nice. Yeah, I'm out with, I'm looking out my window, and it just looks like absolutely gorgeous outside. And I'm out with just being grateful for a beautiful day, grateful for connecting with both of y'all again. Yeah, I feel like my heart pumping with excitement, just like I did the other conversation. And hopefully we can do it again sometime soon. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, appreciate both you gents, and thank you everyone that tuned in and is supporting the community. We do have a donation button down at the bottom, and that's going to help us with our programming for adolescents in the community. A lot of those kids cannot necessarily afford to pay for the tuition for some of the Rites of Passage work that we do, so every dollar does help us expand our impact. Yeah, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time.
See ya.
Peace.